It's been a little bit, but my name is Joe Cody. My name is Joe Skipper with eXp Realty, uh, brokered out of Oregon with my friend Cody Wilhelm. We're already flustered. How's it going, Cody?
It's Wednesday. It's hump day, you know.
Yeah. It's
Doing good. I like to see the summer weather back. You know, I thought we
yeah,
were doing an early fall. Now we're back to some good weather. So soaking it
nice.
up before it's gone. How about you?
Good. I'm just messing around with this right now. I'm trying to see if we can get our video differently because Instagram's trying to. Let me just try this. Instagram's trying to put us on Instagram, but we're all blocked off halfway. So let
Uh,
me just see if I can change that. But anyways, I'm good, man. Just
yeah,
got done with the Hood to Coast.
yeah.
That was my retirement. Everyone thinks I'm not going to retire, and I
Oh,
am.
this is the
So
official announcement right here.
this is I made the announcement, and I knowing exactly what people were going to do is they're going to is which is exactly what they did is like, okay, you're retiring, sure you
Yeah,
are,
right. We've heard
you're
that
gonna come
before.
back, yeah, like blah blah blah. So I am. I think, well,
Wow.
Michael, my brother, is getting married next year around that time, so it's kind of a good way to be like,
Okay.
I gotta help
Yeah.
out with that.
Well,
So
and once you're out for a year, it's easier to just be committed to being out.
well, and I'm not opposed to staying like to doing it again, but I just it's a lot. Like
Yeah.
so anyways, it was
Yeah.
good. I had a lot of fun. We have a good group of people. We had a lot of fun together and it went really well. So
Nice.
yeah, now I'm back and back we were just talking, you and I were just talking about football and coaching football and all that stuff and all of our history with
Oh,
sports and athletics and all that
yes.
sort of stuff. So um
It's it's fun to watch the kids do it. It's you want to push them so hard, and like we
yeah.
were just talking before, there's just that you can see now because you've gone through everything. You can see like, oh, if you could just push them a little bit more, get
Oh
get
yeah.
every little bit out of them. But it's fun to watch.
I know it's a good time.
Yep.
But yeah, it's like now back to a different kind of busy. We're
Yeah.
back in school. I don't know, when do you guys start school?
The boys started yesterday.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we're back in school as well. And so we got that and then sports and
Hmm.
coaching and all that sort of stuff and our jobs of real estate and lending.
Right. You got
So
to
yeah, we
sprinkle
have
that
all
in
of it,
here every
all
once in a
of it
while.
together. But yeah, so it sounds actually to me from the outside looking into the lending world, it sounds like things are looking a little bit positive. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
We're
can you
finally.
tell us all about this?
Yeah, it is. It feels like we're finally getting to that point of things starting to make a shift.
Hmm.
The rates have come down, which has been awesome. It's been more, I think, anticipation of what is to come. Um, but the Fed is, I'm not going to say guaranteed, but it seems very, very likely that they will make their first rate drop at their announcement in September. So now
Okay.
it's just a matter of will it be a 1/4%? Will it be a 0.5%? And for any of those that are looking or pay attention to it, that doesn't necessarily mean a 0.5 point or half a
Yeah.
percent, like I just said it was. It'd be like 25 basis points or 50 basis points, which is really just more like the pricing of it. So it's not necessarily a 0.5 point, but a lot of times it can translate to something similar to that. But that's a good sign for any type of financing, but especially mortgage side, because that's what we
Yeah.
do. That will just maybe be the beginning of things starting to work their way for interest rates to come down to make things a little bit more affordable. I pulled up some stuff from this is from Fannie Mae, just to give you a 2024 overlook of where we started the beginning of the year to where we're at now. So beginning of the year, the national average, according to Fannie Mae, was 6.48. So that was January 5th. So the beginning of the year.
Okay.
And then in November, we went up to 7.79. So pretty big bump.
Yeah.
Everything started out good. And now we're back down to 6.46. So we're essentially back to where we were at the beginning of the year, which is awesome. So when we're seeing the rates drop from over the last month or so, it's been great, because once you get up to that higher point, it's tricky and it's kind of
Yeah.
deflating, I think. So it's nice to see that we're at least back down to where we were to where we started the year. And hopefully as we continue on, we'll drop down below that. And I think it's just going to continue, with with the jobs reports that come out, inflation, everything that plays into it will just hopefully continue to bring those rates down. And again, I know this is kind of more mortgage focused, but when the Fed does bring down that prime rate, that does help car loans, credit cards, personal loans, whatever type of financing you have that, or maybe you're looking to get. It's going to gradually make those a little bit better, a little bit more affordable. So
Yeah.
that's obviously good for all of us. I don't think there's
Yeah,
many
for
of
sure.
us that don't have anything financed. So just across the board, it's nice to start finally seeing that, because it seems like it was, at least from my side of it, I'm like, okay, 6 months, we'll see where things. I bet things will change in 6 months, and then they
Yeah.
don't, or they might go up or they go down a little bit. And it's
For
been like
sure.
that for a solid 2 years now,
Yeah.
2.5 years, and
Yeah.
now it finally feels like, hey, maybe we've made it to this point, and now we could hopefully start to see things ease up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, are you seeing refinancing like pick up a little bit? Because people were up in the mid to high sevens at some point, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's definitely becoming more of a talking point. I think I've done some more refis this year than I did last year. There wasn't really much going on for last year. This year, it's been more people taking out equity as opposed to trying to get a better rate. But I think as they continue to go down, we will start to see those refis pick up, because the hard part with that too is trying to find that good point of when you refinance. Because say you were in the mid sevens, and you could get something that brings you down to the mid sixes or high sixes or whatever it might be, right? There's definitely value there. But part of what I feel like my responsibility is too, instead of just getting the quick refi and then, hey, we'll take a look again in a year, because every refi costs money, right? If they were free, it would be a lot easier. But the fact that there's closing costs and everything involved, it's kind of just, from my side, being more intentional and walking people through of understanding where things are at, and then, hey, let's kind of keep an eye on this. And when we hit that point, like trying to find what is that point for you, because obviously we don't know what the low is going to be, right?
Sure.
Maybe it goes down to the mid fives, but so you could wait for a long time. So it's really finding out that point. But yeah, I mean, the conversation has definitely picked up, and like I said, I've done a few more this year than last year, but it still seems to be more of a kind of desperation or like really specific reason for refinancing, rather than hey, I can drop my payment by
do it. Yeah.
$300 or $500 a month. It's no brainer. Let's do it.
Necessarily. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a interesting, like, are you seeing first time home buyers coming back in the market with rates dropping, or are you still seeing because I don't see them anymore, unfortunately. It's hard. It's been a very hard market to be in as a first time home buyer. Are you seeing an uptick on first time home buyers applying?
No, not really. I'd say it's been about the same as it was last year. There's interest in it, but the payment's just tough. So I'd say it's probably about the same. I mean, ones that are getting under contract and finding something and finding something in their budget is slim, but hopefully here in the next little while, because we do a decent amount of down payment assistance programs, the Washington one. But those interest rates are usually 1/4 to say 0.5% higher than what it would be if you went with the traditional loan. So those are still kind of elevated, which is a good first time home buyer type program for those ones that, say maybe they have $5,000 or $10,000 saved up, but it's not enough for a down payment. So getting those. So I think once we do start to dip down a little bit more, another 0.5%, maybe once we get down to the kind of low 6 or high 5s, I think that's when it'll really start to spark things. And I do think that come next month, when the Fed does make an announcement that they're lowering rates, I think once that starts to spread out in the news and social media and everything, that's when people will start to understand that, hey, maybe things are getting a little bit better. Because right now, it doesn't feel like it's, like I said, even though we've had the rates come down, we're still just right in line with where we were at the beginning of the year. So it really hasn't been a big move. It's been a big move since it was back in November. But overall, I think once that word gets out of like, hey, interest rates are finally officially coming down, then that can kind of spark things and maybe get a little bit more interest in people. But
Yeah, I hope so. I think,
right?
it's tough to be a first time home buyer.
It
It's
is.
really it's hard to see that they can't they can't get into anything. We've worked with
Mm-hmm.
a couple of clients just recently trying to get them into homes, and it's like it's a very shocking thing when they realize
Yeah.
that they in their head what they thought they could afford, and in
Right.
reality what they can't afford based on these rates is like, and we've talked about this over and over and over again, is that rates are just the driver of your monthly payment. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people think that it's some other factor, or the down payment, or the how much you put down on the loan and things like that. And it's really
Yeah,
like your interest rate is significantly involved in your monthly payment.
it is. Yep.
And until you look at those numbers and see that, hey, 3% versus 6% is a whopping change in your monthly
Yeah.
payment,
Yes.
people don't really realize it.
Right. Yeah.
Even 5 to 6,
Yeah.
is
Oh,
a
it's
significant payment. So
it is. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
What are you seeing on the real estate side? Are you seeing stuff that's sitting on the market longer or more
For sure.
inventory? Because I feel like when I've been looking around, just kind of casually browsing at stuff, it feels like there's getting to be more inventory. But again, I'm not like looking at it every day
Yeah.
to really kind of
Yeah.
gauge. But are you seeing anything as far as inventory goes, like
For
any
sure.
increase or decrease?
Yeah, obviously you're going to have pockets, or you're going to have neighborhoods, or you're going to have like specific areas. And that's why I always get people like, oh, my home sold for this much money,
Uh-huh.
in a week, and we had 18 offers. It's like, that's great. But that's becoming more of the exception, not the rule. Whereas it used to
Uh-huh.
be the rule, not the exception, that your
Yeah.
house, if you're sitting there and you're like 7 days has gone by and your house is not sold, then what is wrong with it?
Yeah.
So yeah, we're
Freaking
just seeing
out.
them sit longer. Is it a length of time that I'm concerned about? No. Having said that, it's so weird, even as someone who's in the industry, and maybe the same for you, is like, it bothers me. I still have to get over it as a real estate agent to think, why isn't this house getting an offer after a
Uh-huh.
week? We've
Yeah.
priced it right. We've done all this stuff. And, it always works out in the end, but it is an internal struggle, even as an agent that looks at this stuff all the time and knows that homes are sitting on the market longer. It's a
Uh-huh.
mental struggle to get over. And I know that if I'm thinking it, sellers who have only sold once in their life or twice in their
Right.
life are like, what's going on here?
Uh-huh.
My buddy 6 months ago sold it for whatever. So yeah,
Yeah.
we are seeing it sit on the market longer. I think Wilsonville, the last I checked, was in the 30s days, which is not
Okay.
bad. Like,
Yeah.
but when you're sitting there and all you've seen over the last few years is, my house sat on the market for 5 days, 4 days, 7 days,
Yeah.
then you're like, what's wrong with my house? And
Right.
it's really kind of talking through with people to say, hey, this is normal. So
Uh-huh.
with that comes price stabilization. We're starting to see prices, there are still agents out there that are still pricing them, not accurately high,
Mm-hmm.
because the seller thinks that they can get that.
Mm.
And then you start to see those prices drop. People that are pricing their home properly from the very beginning are generally getting that price. Again,
Okay.
that's all saying generally speaking, because
Yeah, yeah.
every home is different, every neighborhood's different, every city's different. But what I'm
Mm-hmm.
seeing is they're staying on the market longer, prices are stabilizing, and we're just getting more concessions for buyers, and in the form of closing costs or various
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So yeah, I'm not concerned about it. I don't see any numbers that make me concerned about anything besides first time home buyers. They're just
Yeah.
non-existent, and that's sad. But
Yeah.
as to the whole market in general, especially up where I'm at in the Wilsonville, Portland metro area, it's like it's still trucking along. It's just things are taking a little bit longer than, I think we all would hope. So
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I definitely see that with certain homes that are, and I'm sure it has to do with neighborhood or location or whatever it might be, price point. But there
Yeah.
are some that it's like they're just going, there's multiple offers, it's
Yeah.
going over list
Yep.
price, and then you've got others that are just sitting there. And it's weird too, because I feel like for quite a while you'd look at stuff and go, man, I can't believe that house is worth that.
Yeah.
And I start to see stuff now and I'm like, I'm surprised that nobody has bought that.
I know.
Like that seems like a pretty good price for that, but I think it just does come down to affordability for people,
For
not so
sure.
much the price of the home. Sometimes it's just there's not enough people that are qualified and or are willing to and wanting to take on the payment of that, knowing that it might be a couple years before they could potentially get it lower. But yeah, it's interesting when you see that, because you see stuff sit for a while and then you
Yeah.
see other stuff where it's like I got bid out by 5 different
Oh, for
people
sure.
and it was 20 grand over list price.
For
So
sure. And buyers are pickier. They want more, and they
mhm.
demand more now than they had. And I think they got used and abused during the COVID
Mhm.
years, and now they're coming back and saying, well, here's your payback. They're
Yeah.
demanding a house that, you know, meets every one of their needs, or the
Yeah.
majority of their needs, versus like, we just got to get into a home because the
Uh-huh.
rate's so great. So we are seeing that, and that's why I push sellers to really, we've got to cater your home to that new buyer, that new incoming buyer that's very
Mhm.
picky, going to look at everything. They're not rushing in anymore. And so people
Yeah.
that think they can just post the sign in the yard and keep their house as is, and keep the mess in the house and whatever, and someone's going to walk in and do it and
The
buy it,
iPhone
it's just not
photos.
happening. Yeah, it's not happening. So
Yeah.
what's odd though, like as we were talking about that, I was talking to a client of mine just the other day, and it's weird in our area that in the million to like 1.5, it is going like normal. Like it's
So weird.
homes generally aren't sitting on the market a long time. They're
Huh.
going pretty fast at that. Having said that, it's outside of this Wilsonville community, Westland community, all that stuff, where everyone wants acreage
Yeah.
close to town. You know, the
Okay.
homes may be outdated, but it's kind of what everyone wants. It's like they're, you know, like we've talked
Sure.
about this, that dream home sitting right outside of town with a couple
Uh-huh.
acres, and maybe the home is outdated, but we've been seeing those go so fast, like where you would
Hmm.
see it online and be like, they're wanting that. And
Right.
then 2 days later it's pending, you know.
Uh-huh.
It's weird. Yeah, it's just weird to kind of see that stuff change
Yeah.
and ebb and flow. So
Mhm. Well, and that's, I think that client right there, or that demographic of client, is the one where right now it doesn't feel like you can get a good deal, right? Because the payments are high and interest rates are high, everything. But I think it's those people that can do it that are actually getting a good deal.
Mhm.
It might not seem like it, but it is, because there's not a ton of people, and it's maybe something where they can get a little bit, you know, it's a little more of a buyer's market, because there are, I mean, I other than maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I haven't seen this many seller paid closing costs and large amounts of closing costs to buy the rate down. Like, sellers are doing everything they can to incentivize the buyer, and maybe we just kind of got used to those, you know, 19 to 21, 22, where it was like, sellers, you're going to be lucky if they're going to give you anything, because there's 20 other people lined up ready to buy it. So there's definitely some deals out there, and those people that are purchasing at that price range can afford it. And it's not, you know, it's not pulling every penny out of them. They're comfortable with it. And
it's an inconvenience at the rate, but it's not a it's not a deal breaker.
Yeah.
They're at a price that they can mess around with stuff. But yeah, you're right. The concessions for buyers are, I've seen them like huge uptick in concessions for buyers. And with the buyer's and the buyer's agent commission has been factored in quite a bit now, you know. Maybe that's going to be the norm, but that's a concession now that, like, you know, is being factored in all the time now. So yeah, it's interesting. So
always
crazy
something
times.
New. Always something new.
Well, fall's going to bring us, you know, the pumpkin spice lattes, the flannel shirts, and we always joke that you start to see, like, this is when it's fall, but it's still like 90 degrees outside. You go by any pumpkin patch, and every family is in like flannel, like puffy jackets, the boots, and they're sweating just to try to get that photo, like by a straw or by a straw hay
the
bale,
sun is out, it's
pumpkin,
like the perfect,
and it's like they're just totally drenched, but they have to have their fall outfit on. I just think it's so funny. But I'll probably be doing it the next couple of days when Christina forces us to do it. But I just think it's so funny. Everyone has to rush in to get that great weather, but they're wearing weather for 50 degrees. I don't know how we got on that tangent, but anyways, going into fall, it's going to be fun to chat with you and kind of see how things go as we get into fall. So
it's good stuff. I love it.
Well, it's good to see you, man. We'll chat next week, unless barring anything crazy that goes on in our lives. So
if there's any breaking news, we'll jump back on here.
Because everyone's sitting at the edge of their seat.
Right? Waiting for that announcement.
Okay, sounds good, man. We'll